Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Brace for Impact, episode 34. I am Benikage. As always, it's the Parks.
The
Parks
parks.
say, Parks say, Parks say. We're both fresh off the land, man. How was
Yeah.
it, mate?
Oh
How
my
was
god,
it?
it was so much fun, dude. Launders is a true G. Just like the entire week. I don't know if you saw the 10-minute video that Ping put out, but like, oh, go watch it. It
I
is,
saw him put it out. I haven't gotten a chance to
dude,
watch it
it
yet.
is
So.
probably one of the funniest things ever just cuz like it encapsulates the entire stream in like a nutshell. It was great. I met so many cool people. Um I didn't actually. Here's a funny thing. Davey was there, right? Cuz he's in Toronto now. And like I talked to him, but I never was like, "Oh, hey Davey, I'm Parks." I don't think we've actually ever met in person. I was just kind of there before him, and then he showed up, and it was just like, "Oh, hey." I
Did
don't
you?
think he
I
knew
didn't
who I
watch the
was.
VODs back. Did you do some games?
Oh, dude, I was on the stream the entire day.
Oh, okay. So you did
Yeah,
an all in.
I was
All in
I
was
was an all in.
troopering it, man. Shout
Yeah,
out all in, by the way,
shout out.
because he troopered that frag land that I went to. So,
Yeah, I saw
um,
him on the broad. Dude, Fragadelphia came in a couple of times and like talked shit in the chat. It was
I
hilarious.
saw I
It was
saw
so good.
somebody we frag came into the one stream right when we were on break and
Yeah.
posted something like that, right? Like jokingly, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Rob or Rusty, but they were like, "Oh, we're not talking smack about the Toronto land, are we?" And I was like, "Oh, here we go," because I saw it on their chat. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So
yeah. That's
I was
so
like,
good.
"Okay,"
That's so
but
good.
yeah, it was a lot of fun,
Did
man.
you
Land is insanely fun.
and the
I have
cool
to
thing
admit.
is that what from what I was taught when I was talking to Launders about it afterwards is like rivalry was pretty impressed. Like the venue itself, they had their technical issues, but like it was at the Overactive Media Studio, so it was in the Red Bull side essentially. So those guys knew what they were doing. It was just the fact of the matter that they weren't ready to handle all the power that was needed. But they're like, yeah, like rivalry was looking at it and going, this was really successful, and like the amount of teams that were back, like there were waitlisted, and the amount of people that were waitlisted. The reason there was a waitlist for spectators was because they could only have a certain amount of people in the building, that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
fire
So
code and stuff
yeah,
like that
fire
too. Yeah.
literally it was the fire code was the only thing holding people back. So huge overall. I'm excited to see more in the future, and I think everybody else is as well. I'm guessing that Frag was a big success on your side.
So yes, it was. It was a really good land. It was a $5,000 land, and
Yeah,
the venue was nice. And what I thought was that the venue was like I walked there, was a sign that said like this is closed for a private event, and I'm like, right, because it's frag. But then I go in and it's 2 floors, and a whole bottom floor was open play when I got down there.
oh
I
wow,
don't know if that would have been the case on Friday because they had to play so many groups like
yeah,
early on because it was GSL for all the groups.
right,
Everything was best of three, so the
wow,
format
that's a
was solid. Like,
huge.
yeah, sorry, but what do you call it? I got there and I'm like, hey, I'm here to volunteer. And they're like, who did you talk to? And I said, Bach. So they said, yeah, go up the elevator. So I did. And you get up there and it's like a maze, man. There were
Yeah.
like back rooms to back rooms. And you get in there and it's like one table's like this in the middle where one team sits on this side, one team sits
Yeah.
on that side. And then on the wall, there's a whole nother team. And then the corridor snakes to the back and goes to the left. And there's another team along that wall. And
Yeah.
then there's like 2 rooms in those that are like private rooms back there. And there were more teams in there playing. So
They
the
filled up as
upstairs
much as
fit,
possible.
yeah, the upstairs fit about 8 full teams at
Wow.
any given time.
Yeah.
And then the stream setup was really tiny and intimate. Like you basically had the 2 sofas, and then they had like a green screen with another chair they never used, but they
Yeah.
set up, and
Yeah.
like that was it.
This
Once
sounds
if
exactly the
you
same
left
as
that little
mine.
area,
Sounds
you
exactly the
you
same
were on the
experience.
gaming floor. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was really funny. It was just a lot of fun to work it. All in is amazing. So getting to work with him is amazing. And then we fed each other. It felt so natural
Yeah.
because we've done it before for LCA. Whereas like I was a little bit slow to work in with Bach a little bit.
Yeah.
Immediately, you got Benny straight up front. If you know, not to talk in third person, but because about 10 minutes into the broadcast, maybe 5-10 minutes into my first ever broadcast with him on land, I made a reference to Trading Places. Bach looks at me and goes, I haven't watched that movie in 20 years, and probably nobody knows what you're talking about. And
That's
I'm
good.
like,
That's
here we
good.
go.
That's how you
So
know.
he's literally like in a week, in 2 days, I'm gonna be the same age as him, so I can't
Yeah,
even say it's a me being old and the audience being young thing, because 'cause I'm like, he don't even know, man. He's
yeah,
my age
yeah.
practically, so I'm like, "Oh,"
That's
but anyway,
great.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad we went to LAN. Parks and Benny and lands. Yeah, honestly, just a lot of fun. You should go check out the video, the Pings
Yeah.
video. It's a heck of a time. I mean, I ended up driving a total of 6 hours in terms of just
Oh, wow.
picking up Ping,
Wow.
driving to Toronto, driving us back home from Toronto after it had snowed during the day, bad conditions, and then driving him back to his house and then back
Yeah,
home
it
myself. It was a
snowed the day
lot.
I went to frag too.
Yeah.
It was dicey,
Apparently, there's gonna be
but
more snow tomorrow up here, so I'm excited.
yeah, same here. So I
Yeah.
was like, "Ah."
All right. Well, we've got a good amount of news to cover in terms of just roster notes, among other things. There's a few things, a few different things, and then as well, we've got a little bit of award season on the way, so that'll be interesting. Let's get started with some news
Real
then.
quick,
Yeah.
let's start where the results didn't,
Oh,
because I got nothing. We got nothing.
yeah. Everybody took some
That
time
was
off.
bad.
That was
I'm
really
going back
bad.
to the drawing board with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Leave that one for leave the Asian Cash Cups.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, fair enough.
um, yeah, so we'll start in A. We got a few things kind of coming through. Um, first one was on New Year's Day, right after the ball dropped. The
Oh
good old
God.
Shimmer GM himself drops the roster announcement that Shimmer added Chicken.
Yes.
So yeah, they went through all their trials. They trialed a few players, and they decided that they really like Casey the most out of everyone. So they went with her. And so far as I've seen, it's been all positives on that side. Yeah, it's been really good. The flow is there, and like you get into like a new Discord, or like you're talking to new people and you're like, I don't know if this is actually gonna be like if they're gonna vibe with me, or if anything's gonna work with this. Nah, they've been going ham every single day. I've ended up muting most of the Discord now because they just send notifications at like 4 a.m. in the morning, and it's like I wake up and I just see lists of stuff, and I'm like, I I gotta mute this. I can't get woken up by Discord notifications in the middle of the night.
Even the ESL admin said that, because they were posting. Remember, they were doing that in the support chat
Yeah,
on the GG for
they
all. They're like,
just
some of us get notifications every
the
time you post. Yeah, I was
funniest
like, oh shit.
like in the nicest way possible. They just be yapping, man. Like they just keep it's nice to know that they are like super close friends already
Yeah,
to
they're
go, and they're all
vibing.
ready to go. They're
They're
vibing.
vibing. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is cool to see. Uh
Let me talk real quick on the non COI side, because you
yeah.
have a COI,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Not that you
yes.
have any financial gain or
COI.
anything. So.
Yeah, I'm actually at
Well,
a financial loss.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, but still, like, you know,
Yeah,
in terms of the actual roster move, I think this is solid. I think this is one of the better free agent players that at the time was on the market. You know what I mean, in North America. So Cheekin's very solid. I think she had a spell. I want to say with Tsunami Sirens last. Is that correct?
she was the in-game leader for the Tsunami Sirens
Right.
for
So
almost half the season until there were
and
mental reasons for her to take a step back.
right, and you saw how well they performed. I
Yes.
think really this could put Shimmer on a path for Dallas. I think if you look at teams and what they've shored up recently, there's actually been a lot of great roster moves, but I think even after the roster change, I'm looking at this and saying, to me, Shimmer's still the number two. I think Nouns is going to give him a little bit of trouble now. A little more. Let me put it this way: I think Nouns will be more troublesome to beat than last season. We'll get to that in a minute
Yeah.
with the roster change. But I look at this and I say, you've probably picked up the best candidate on the market, and that he's going to slide right in, and this team's going to just continue to fire on all cylinders. So,
And not only that, but she just again from kind of the GM side, like they understood kind of what they were looking for when they went and trialed different players, because you have a player like Empathy who is malleable and can just do whatever. So they had to do a little bit more of role refining and kind of figure out, okay, we're going to put X player to do this. We're going to get this player to do a bit more of this, and kind of figure everything out a bit more. Not only just to kind of fit around who they were picking up, but kind of to make the blend a bit better all around. So you're not just relying on empathy to drop 40 kills a game. Not saying that's what happened to begin with. It's just, it's one of those things like you kind of have to look at a roster and go, you have such a big star. You can't just rely on the star power. You want to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody's getting their shot
Yeah.
forward. So
You can get season 4 Shimmer and not season 2 EG Gold. You know what I
yes.
mean? Like that's
Yes.
exactly what
You
yeah.
yeah, you want Shimmer over Ichi Gold any day of the week. Um All right, moving forward then, we do have an announcement on the nouns front. They were looking for two. They're like set to announce the next player, and I have an inkling as to who I think the fifth is. No confirmation yet. We do know that Catalyst has joined as their fourth pickup, so
Yes.
it currently sits as Rice, Lunari, Catalyst, and I'm gonna have a mind break right now. Hold on, my brain broke.
Ash.
Ash, that is right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it Ash?
Is it Ash? I thought it was Ash.
Oh, checking.
Ash is on nouns. She was on nouns at least.
Yes, it is Ash. That's why
Thank you.
they have
Brain still works.
they have that playlist thing, and Ash is at the top, and then there's a break, and then there's the rest of the three. Which, come on, man, don't do that to me.
Yeah, right.
You're like, Anyways, that's minor things. It's interesting to see who they're gonna pick up though, because I'm pretty sure no one on that team I'm pretty sure they don't have an IGL right now. I think that's who they're picking up. Just kind of as a hint.
Okay.
They're picking up somebody who has IGL in the past. That's and again, I'm speculating. My speculation, I'm gonna speculate here. I'm thinking that I'm going for the wild pick here. Magical Hands. I think they're picking up Jeskas.
Woo!
I think that's the pickup.
Okay.
And it'll be interesting to see.
If that's true,
yes,
I actually like it because remember I was really fond of Police and Help when she was the in-game leader.
Yes.
They took at the time CLG Red to overtime on Ancient. Like
yes.
they were starting to slowly grind out and improve. She moves off of IGL ahead of season 2, right? They dominate because that's the skill power.
And then they pick up Milky.
And then they absolutely capitulate at the land,
Yeah.
right? So I think she even didn't change off the in-game leader role before season 2. I think it was literally during season 2, maybe like with the last game of the season.
Yeah,
or something like that.
I have no idea on the timeline on that.
Teams were not particularly competitive because you had like Echo in there and whatnot. And no disrespect to the Echo girls, but like just you look at what the region was made up of in season 2, and it's just
they were still teams were
teams
were still trying to find their footing and trying.
That's a really good way to put it. That's exactly the way to put it. So
yeah,
I would like that pickup. I don't think if that's the case, they still get to a position where they're top 2, but I would say, they're teams like a Shimmer, like a Tsunami Sirens couldn't take them for granted. They would really I don't want to say you should ever take teams for granted, but there's certain teams that you can roll up against that you're not really expecting a ton of resistance against, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think nouns are going to be that. I think they're going to be pretty punchy, and I think Jess gives them a extra dynamic if that's the case. On the Catalyst pickup, I think it's the other probably best free agent you've picked up on the market. We've been thought very highly of Catalyst on this pod before. I still do. I think she's a great player, and I think this gives nouns a lot of extra firepower now that they're going to threaten a lot of teams in this region with. So
100%. So that's an interesting thing from the nouns front. And again, I cannot 100% verify that it is Jess Cass that's going to be joining the team. It's just kind of what I've heard. We'll see if it pays off or not. I could be right. I could be wrong.
You heard it through the grapevine. All right.
All right. Well, let's keep going down the list then. Speaking on roster additions, MIBR adding Danny. You can speak on this one, I think.
This is as of right now, this is the best free agent pickup that has happened in any region because Donnie, if you remember, was on Divina, which then dropped their team halfway through the season for no reason. But she went absolutely just off the rails.
Yeah.
On MIBR in that series in Impact, particularly on Mirage, but in the whole series, right?
Yeah.
They beat MIBR. And then this Davina side, who was consistently like the 6th to 8th team in South America. Like they weren't beating a Fluxo, they weren't beating W7M, they weren't beating MIBR, they weren't beating Furia. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
consistently there towards the lower end, just came storming up the standings. Actually went into the final day with a chance to make it to the land still. Like even pick
Yeah,
Fluxo
it's
to
a
the land.
weird, yeah.
And then they finished above MIBR, relegated MIBR who have to requalify, and Ex Divinas secured a spot for season 5, right? They finished, I think, 3rd in the end or something like that, or 4th.
Yeah.
I think they finished 3rd actually, and so it was like, whoa, like where did this come from? And Donnie was like the one key piece. We know MIBR was rebuilding, but here's the thing, Parks. MIBR looked really good in the Masters Femenina that we got before
Yes.
the LAN, right? The season 4 LAN. So, and they finished 2nd there. They took down Fluxo. So this is a big pickup for MIBR. So now I'm looking at this like, this is huge. If this like this makes this region a 3-horse race again. It was really a 1-horse race in season 3. It was all Fluxo. Furia couldn't touch him,
Yeah.
right? And then Black Dragons were in the mix, right? But
Yep.
they weren't even close. And now this is like a 3-horse race at least
Yeah.
with these teams. And then now you're talking about a Macreas that's in there that could or
Not
Atrix now,
McRae's, yeah,
right?
Atrix, yep.
Yeah, Atrix now. But you're talking about an H. I just like saying Macreas, okay? Anyway, because I get to put a little accent on it. But you're talking about an Atrix now who have really been I mean, in the qualifiers to the Masters Femenina, they were taking down some big scalps, right?
Yeah.
They took down Fluxo as well. Then they got to the main event and they kind of folded. But the point is, like, you know the capability that they have. Now you have MIBR in there. So South America's getting really interesting.
Yeah.
And this is a fire pickup. MIBR are going to be really, really good with this pickup.
I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see because now you can kind of see where the big 3 teams are in terms of like Brazilian side. Again, one of those things like the first few seasons, it's development, it's trying to figure everything out. And yeah, they had Masters Femenina and all the other things from Gamers Club, but you kind of come through and you go, okay, we've gotten a bit more wheat from the chaff. We figured out how to separate a bit more here, and we just got absolutely destroyed by a young up and coming player. What's the best thing to do but hire them for your team and just absolutely destroy with them? So I think it makes sense. It's gonna be, like you said, it's gonna be interesting to see the three-headed horse race down there, and maybe even a 4th one coming in if Atrix kind of starts to pop up as well. There's a lot of possibilities coming there, and especially
Yeah, we get new look W7M too.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot there. And now I don't think there's going to be any reason that MIBR don't requalify, but it'd be kind of funny
Right,
if
you're right.
all of
Yeah.
a sudden they don't because suddenly like 5 teams pop out there.
Don't.
What if there's just suddenly you come into the first qualifier and there are 10 Brazilian teams just kind of there, and MIBR get to the semifinals and lose, and then they have to go through the second one and there's 8 teams and it happens again. Like spinning on my head. Be crazy.
No,
Be
it's
cool.
not gonna happen.
I know, but I need to say something
Anyway,
wild.
Let's too whack. Anyway, let's move on. And let's move on. So the next piece of news we have is that is actually coming out of Oceanic. So Vantage Esports
Yes.
and
Bones.
with the help of Bones. Bones is so Vantage are a Counter-Strike team, right? They're an
Yes.
Oceanic Vietnamese mixed Counter-Strike team, right? So they are. I'm actually going to retweet this right now because I just pulled the tweet back up, or at least the profile. But they're looking at creating a new series or format of tournaments, right?
Yep.
For the women's team, they're going to be run throughout the year, and they just were doing they're doing an interest form essentially. They have a Google form.
Yep.
That you want to fill out, right? And it's just interest. It's just an expression of interest because they want to see how many players would be willing to compete in these other tournaments outside of the cash cups, right?
Right.
And so any questions, you can reach out to I think it's Hoax,
Yeah.
HOACKZ, and that's at HOACKZAU for Australia, right?
Yep.
Or you can reach out to Bones AUS _ on Twitter. If you're in the ANZ FE Plus Discord, you can definitely reach out to them on that Discord as well. But I think this is great. I really would love to see a tournament circuit. I'm trying to save the money for a circuit, right, or at least a tournament down there this year.
Yeah.
Right now, so I think it would be fantastic, and it would be really beneficial to a scene that, yes, is literally they are the smallest scene. You could argue maybe South Africa as well is in there, but
Yeah, they're both.
they're literally the smallest scene, and they've produced 2 exports and are one of the top teams to compete when you get into like the national teams and whatnot. So
Yeah.
it would be befitting, and I think of the skill that's down there in Australia and New Zealand.
Well, I mean, you look at Phoebe and Bibion, right? Those are the 2 players that have made the jump effectively over into NA, which is really cool to see. And yeah, there you go. He's wearing the Phoebe jersey. He knew he was going to have to talk about this, so he wore the jersey to rep it out.
I actually didn't. I just didn't plan it like that. I'm just like, I wore this to work, and then I was like, you know what? Actually, we got to do the pod. This would be good for the pod too.
So, no, it's interesting. I'm interested to see if this does bring forward some more players that are interested and are going to form teams, because we've been getting the same kind of, you get roughly the same 15 players overall. You get 2 teams formed, and they kind of just go from there, and they're playing it because they can get the money from ESEA, ESL on this. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the circuit coming through. I haven't seen, there haven't been any numbers yet in terms of how many are interested. I haven't talked to Bones or Kimbab about this. I suspect Kimbab might know as well.
Yeah, I haven't either, because it's been the off season.
Yeah, it's been the off season, and as well, like, it hasn't really, it's just a form of intent at this point. It's a form of intent, nothing else there yet. So I'd like to see if they know kind of player count wise, if how many people have interest, because if they can get 4 teams, like, that's a pretty good small like season tournament right there. Just 4 teams playing each other. You have to think, like, the NHL started out with 6 teams basically that ran for like 20 years. So you play enough games against each other. Well, there was a bunch
way
of teams,
longer than that.
There was a bunch of teams before that. You have to remember, before the original 6, there was like a crap ton, and then the wars came through and everything got small again.
I thought the original 6 were from like the 20s.
No. Well, they've been around for a while, but yeah.
I know that.
There's a lot more lore. There's more lore than I really want to go through right now. Mostly because I don't know it all myself. Anyways, moving forward
and you're Canadian. Shame.
That's not true.
Shame. What, that you're not Canadian?
No, that I would be shamed for that kind of stuff.
I'm teasing. Okay, anyway.
All right.
Let's move on.
Sad news coming in from the other side of the world.
No sad news, please.
9 Pandas have dropped the 9 Pandas Fearless roster.
Yeah.
So far as it's been said, the core of Victoria, Taddy, and KSU are sticking together. So that's Fatal, and
that's what I got out of the tweet.
That's what,
like,
so that's the interesting thing. It's like Fatal is just saying, yeah, we're looking for a team. I'm open to offers. And I think it was Victoria who tweeted like, hey, myself, Taddy, and KSU are looking to stick together as a core and play still together. So I don't know if this is just like Fatal and I forget the other player that was on this team. If they're just kind of
oh god.
Yeah, we're about to look it up, aren't we? I'm gonna look it up on the side.
Yeah.
No, it'll be interesting to see just like kind of if somebody looks to pick them up, if it turns to, they
Elizabeth,
that makes sense.
I did look it up.
It's okay. Yeah, I don't know. It'll just be interesting to see kind of what happens, because this is the bona fide 3rd best team in Europe. That has repeatedly showed that, and actually did well enough this year to finally get into the playoffs. You have to remember, in Dallas they didn't, and they had to fight really hard, and they got in on day 1 in Valencia. So big moves that come from this team. Like they play very well. They're very good. It's just they've always kind of been in Navi and Enigma's shadow, and that's always been the unfortunate bit.
Yeah, I think it's surprising. It might just be a contractual thing where they run out.
Yeah, but then why are all 5 sticking together, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because they're at an impasse, right? So
yeah.
The problem is like that you want to improve, but you're stuck in 3rd. So it's like one of these things where like something has to give. They've tried this before. Remember when we talked to Fatal? If you remember on this podcast, we've talked to Fatal previously, where this cord basically dropped her from the lineup when they were No Fear 5 back in 2020 to 2021, and then she played elsewhere, and then they brought her back in the lineup. So I think if you're looking at available spots for Fatal, I honestly think if you're One Wing Gang and you're looking at potential, or Spirit, if Spirit potentially could pick her up. You know what I mean? I think I don't know
Yeah.
if they need a fifth or not, Spirit,
I'm pretty
but
sure they signed a full roster. I don't think they're in the need.
I
It
thought they
depends on
just had
if
a few people subbing in for him. I didn't think they
I
actually
have no
had,
idea.
a full five. But we know that Shia, I believe, is on. Oh no, she left Spirit, but she is. I don't know. There's players I think that Fatal have played with that are on Spirit now. I believe so. The
Yeah.
potential's there. I don't want to see her go to like a Shinigami or anything like that, because then it's like, first off, she's still a free agent, and then second off, like, they were good, but they were never remotely close to being anything that would qualify for LAN or whatnot, and obviously Fatal's good enough to play on LAN. She's been one of the best players this season, so
Yeah.
um, her English is okay, but I don't think in the competitive environment it's something where she could compete in English unless she learned it more. So I don't know. Where does she go? It's going to be interesting to see where she lands. I know she wants to keep playing,
Yeah.
and I hope we get to see her. So just going to be keeping an eye on that in terms of where she goes, and if anyone picks up this Nine Pandas Fearless roster. So yeah, it's a little bit sad that they're breaking up. It's almost seems like it's insane for they're breaking up. But you know, as we'll soon come to know, once you hit a wall, you gotta make a change if you can't break through it. And I definitely could say with Nine Pandas that they definitely hit a ceiling that they have not been able to break through.
Yeah. Like you said, it'll be interesting to see. That's kind of just it's one of those we have to sit and wait. They have a spot. They have a spot in season 5, so
Oh
there'll
yeah,
be some kind of team
yeah.
coming through with that. Be interesting to see. Next piece of the news. Somebody gave an interview to Dust2.se, the Swedish Dust2.
Yeah.
Shout out to Swedish Dust2. And that was Sevenlicious. She's back home from her American expedition. So of course, she came
I
over to
like that.
play. She came over to play, went back home, did a little bit of casting, a little bit of analyst, or sorry, not casting, a little bit of analyst desk work at
Yeah.
Valencia.
She actually talked about that in the interview. So
Yeah, I know. I was gonna mention that. And then went back again to grab the rest of her stuff from her apartment after EG dropped them and her contract ran out. And she's back home now. She's chilling. And I think she was even streaming the major qualifiers today. I think she was following a team. I don't remember exactly who, but
yeah, not EG.
no,
But
never EG.
R.I.P. to EG. You never know. Actually, just really quickly on the EG thing, and then I'll pivot back to Sevenlicious. But I don't know if you noticed, but there was an old org that's been defunct for years,
Yeah.
and I think Dust 2 and HLTV ran an article on it. But it was Copenhagen Wolves,
Yes. Some
and
guy.
Outlaw, an American,
He picked
bought
them
them,
up.
and he
Yeah.
he was there with, and they called themselves Copenhagen Cubs.
Oh,
And he
cool.
had a Copenhagen Wolves jersey with his name on the back and everything. And I'm
That's
like,
so cool.
yo. So maybe there's a hope for these dead defunct orgs like EG are about to be, and like an old CLG or an old.
Benny, do we buy EG for the memes?
I would buy CLG for the memes. What are you talking about?
Oh,
But
I don't think we'd ever get that one.
yeah, MSG might hold on to that one.
Yeah, not
Although to be
MSG,
fair,
not MSG. It was NRG.
Energy
MS
bought the team, but they didn't buy the branding.
didn't
Yeah,
they?
they
They had to
bought
buy
the
everything,
league
didn't they not?
team, but they didn't buy the branding.
No, they had
So
to buy everything. I
MSG's,
thought.
I they bought the team
Right, but they
and the
didn't buy the brand.
players,
How does the
but I
branding
don't
not
think they
go?
bought the branding.
That's I.
I think MSG still owns the branding. So
Well,
if that's the case,
I guess it is
even
on
if
site.
NRG, even here's the thing, even if NRG owned the branding, one thing you got to know, I don't know why my camera does that, freezes. I'm gonna have to get a new one. But
Yeah,
what do you call it? Uh, there's something in intellectual property law that says if you own an intellectual property, right?
yeah.
Obviously, public domain, it takes like 85 years to go into it. But
97.
if you 97, there you go. But um, if you own it, but you do nothing with it at all, then it enters into public domain way earlier.
Right.
So, shout out to, but anyway, that's I'm playing a long game here. Nonetheless, back on the Seven Licious thing because I'm way off tangent. But I think the interview's interesting. I feel really bad for her when I listen to this interview because she said something like, she felt really lonely because she didn't really make friends. The whole idea was that the whole team was going to
It
move to
was in their
Seattle.
contracts that they were to move to Seattle, and
Yeah, and
that was the
then it
thing that
all fell
Jesscast
apart.
talked about, like openly talked about after
Yeah,
getting left from the team, was like she had spent a lot of
yeah,
her money and like her life savings to uproot her
to
life to
uproot
go to
herself. Yeah,
Seattle, and then she got there and she got dropped like nearly immediately. So that's I don't know. It sucks for Jesscast, and it kind of just goes to show like you gotta be careful with your contracts, because that's something I ended up talking to Mads and I think her mom about, was when they initially saw those contracts, because you have to remember Mads was on the Please Send Help squad that was going to get signed by EG, and Mads and her family kind of looked at the contract and went, I live in the States, I don't see a reason I need to move away from my family to go and do this and uproot my whole life. And so she didn't sign the contract and she went to CLG Red instead. So that's that's one of the things. And
yeah.
yeah,
I did feel really bad for her though that she said she was really lonely. Like
well, yeah, it's one of those things of like, you're a
it's
gamer, you're
that's
introverted.
horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
sucks. It's just one of those
Mhm.
things like when you
But
move to a new
sh
place.
she did say that she got to refocus on things like her fitness and whatnot. And
Yeah,
I remember she posted a lot on Twitter, like of her at the gym. So I was like, that's good. At least there's something she was able to take from that very difficult thing to deal with and turn it into a positive gain in terms of being more generally fit
yeah,
and whatnot. I'm actually trying to do the same personally, so we'll see. But nonetheless, it's not about me; it's about her. It's
yeah.
her interview, and
I
I
think the
thought it was
biggest,
interesting.
yeah, I think the
I
biggest
like.
thing to take away,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
is to say that like she says basically, I'm interested in everything that has to do with esports, and I love trying new things in
Yeah, that's
esports,
what
and
I
I'm
like.
completely but competing is the prio for me. So her priority is playing, but as we saw with Valencia, and as we see with her during the major, like she just wants to do anything and everything she can to get
Yeah,
in it. So she's on the grind and she has the passion for it. So she's gone all in, which would be, it's cool to see from that. Like sometimes you get like people that just, they want to do one thing and they don't diversify. But she's giving herself a chance to diversify, and there's a potential that if nothing works out, she might build enough of a base to be a content creator, and like that could be her career. It's like she was pro gamer turned content creator, and like she does streaming for her, for however long, or that potentially leads into an analyst career. We'll
yeah,
have to keep an eye on her. She's not
I
going
will.
away, that's for sure.
That's what I like. I like the fact that she wants to be all things involved. She's willing to do the desk work. I thought she was okay on the desk.
Yeah, I think
And I,
when you
I
come in
think
on
as
short
she,
notice, like she did a
yeah,
very good
exactly,
job.
with no
No
preparation
prep,
notes or
just
anything
kind
like
of,
that.
I'm
Yeah.
here, I'm a player, but I'm
Yep.
now.
And I think what I like is that um she has a lot of experience, and when she gets even more experience from playing further, like
Yeah,
she's gonna be fire on the analyst desk. She's gonna be absolutely fantastic. So
yeah.
that's what I look forward to. Uh,
All
one
right.
more piece of news, big piece of news, my friend. The
So
biggest
big that
piece of
you
news.
cut
It
out
dropped today. It dropped an hour ago.
2 hours ago. I was still at work.
Okay, I
I
was still at work too. So an hour ago.
yeah, I got this news right, and I had a bit of a I had a bit of a warning on it as well, because my sources hit me up and were like, "Yo, the major roster's kind of looking different." And at first, and this is from Icy. Icy tweeted and he just said, minus Mads plus plus Vuzel plus Vanessa. And
Yeah.
I went, that doesn't make sense.
Plus pink drink.
Plus Pink Drink Lady.
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't make sense. Maybe Mads is sick and they want to use somebody else who's not sick. Vanessa's a free agent. Makes sense. And then, some other source company, these two players are missing. Mads and Kelsey are missing from the roster, and Emmy and Vanessa are on the roster for the major today. I went, huh, interesting. And then people
Yeah.
start messaging me and going, "Did you see the major roster?" And I'm going, "No, but I'm being told what it is."
Yep.
Uh, yeah, this is weird. What's happening? And then, sure enough, there's no Gonzalo, what's your source? And I went, let me get back to you on that because I don't have a screenshot because I haven't seen any of this.
Mhm.
And then like 5 minutes later, Twitter got the announcement from FlyQuest. They have dropped Kelsey and Mads from the roster. They have not
Yes.
announced formally who they're picking up to replace them. However, at this
Right.
time, it is Vanessa and Emmy, the two that are on the roster. So whether
Right.
it's like a trial because they're in a major qualifier and it doesn't, I'm a be honest, I don't with how many big teams have to qualify. Like literally, Liquid and Energy are in this qualifier because they need to do it because they're new teams. Like this is experience gaining slash doing trials in a big
Yeah.
tournament format.
Yep.
Um, and it'll be great experience. It'll be great to see, but I don't know. First reaction was going, I don't know.
So I I'm kind of like torn between the two, right? So I have two reactions.
Yeah.
The first was a change needed to be made, right? We just talked
Yes.
about when you hit your
Yes.
ceiling,
They had hit their
and
ceiling.
FlyQuest definitely hit their ceiling, right? They were fantastic on land at Dallas, but the
There was
semifinals
regression.
was the best that they could have squeezed out of that tournament. They got there, and then they were done, right?
Yeah.
And then you would thought, okay, even if they don't make semis, they'll compete for semis here in Valencia, and they were way off the. I mean, they went to Serbia to boot camp, and they came into the land, and they were just smoked.
And
So
I will put one qualifier to that of they played against HSG who nearly beat Enigma in a best of three. But that doesn't
I mean,
excuse the
yes,
fact
but
that the
the
game was
point
not
is, like,
competitive at all.
yeah. So, um, and the other team they played against was Fluxo, who beat Enigma in a best of one. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the main takeaway is it. I think a change needed to be made, right?
Yes. I
I
think that
don't know if
was
you
writing on the
change
wall.
two. That's what a lot of people are saying. I don't know if you change two. I do think Kelsey was the player you had to
Yes.
change. I think, and
That had
that's
been
weird to
kind
say
of a
that
thing to
because
say for a while, I want to say. That has
yes,
been
but
on
it's weird
everybody's
for me to
mind.
say that because when I look at some of the performances she's had in their bigger moments, she's been there in the mix, but then like through the consistency hasn't
No.
been there, right?
It's
And I think
you,
that's the problem.
you kind of have to
You
think of
could,
her like an earlier Floppy. Floppy earlier in his career, he was great on the big stage, great on the big games. Like when he had to make a big moment happen, he could do it. But the consistency wasn't there. And that's the thing with Floppy is overall over time he improved on complexity, and getting somebody like Elysian was huge
yeah,
because Fang was much the same in terms of Fang was very inconsistent, but when Fang was firing, like that team was world beaters. The problem was it was more often than not he wasn't on all cylinders. And so you were relying on Grim, you were relying on Halzerk. While the replacement Elige for Fang, it gave Floppy more room to be able to be put in more comfortable positions and then
yeah,
made into the more consistent
yeah.
player he is now. So
Now,
I don't know.
the other point I was going to make is I'm a little bit unsure of removing Mats because
Yeah, that's
Mats was phenomenal at the
she.
season 4 land. She was
Yes,
the shining star on that team,
she was.
and she has proven herself to be very good in the clutch. And I understand. Look, the if going off the rumor, the Vanessa pickup to slot in for Kelsey would be phenomenal. I would be like, that is an excellent pickup, right? Because
Right,
we know the professionalism that Vanessa has and how she carries herself, and we know the drive that she has, and we know the skills that she has. She's a person who can grow into a level that we have not seen her compete at yet on this
right.
roster. So I'm very happy with her. Emmy, I'm a little bit unsure about because, again, assuming it's true,
Yeah.
because here's my issue: a lot of the Emmy before she left for Valorant
Mm-hmm.
was unreal, mind you. She
Mm-hmm.
was what I mean. Jen, I would say towards the end was the best player on the side, but Emmy had these games where she would just freak on the opponents. I'm talking like your advanced playoff teams, and she could drop a 30 bomb on them.
Yeah.
So remember, she subbed in for Virio Pro for half a season, and the only games
That
they
wasn't.
won.
I thought that was Yuli.
No, that was Emmy.
That was Emmy. Okay.
The only games that they won was when she was in the roster. So she came in for 5 games They went
Yeah.
4-1 and were a playoff team. She left to go to Val, and they finished 4-10 or 4-8 on the season. Like they never
Yeah.
won another game. So it's one of these things where she's an unbelievable player. My problem is a lot of the players, the case studies that we have, Parks, of players who were really, really good, who left for Valorant, who spent at least a year there and have come back, have been not even a shadow of their former themselves. And my
They
case study,
need
and not to call them out, but
yeah.
just to say my case studies are: you look at Milky, you look at Giuliano, you look at Zaz,
Yep.
right? You look at Emily, although I think she's improving, but
Yeah.
there's a readjustment that's had to take place. You look at Rain. I
I
think the
think
only player who's really looked about the same is Yuli from old EG.
the other one that I can say is Bungie. Bungie as well
Okay,
looked
that's
very
fair.
good.
Bungie.
Those
Yeah,
were
I
the
forgot about
two.
Bungie.
Those are the two that
Right.
I think. And
But
Ellie
Bungie
didn't really
wasn't on like a championship winning side before she left, whereas
right,
like
100%.
Giuliano and
Those guys,
Yuli
they
and
were.
Emily
Those
Paul
women
were.
were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um. Yeah, I think in terms of role replacement, I think it's more of a minus Mads plus Vanessa minus Kelsey plus Emmy kind of situation. And I understand where they're trying to go with that in terms of looking for firepower. Again, I don't see. I don't know. I don't see the reason to remove Mads. I think that's where
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and looking
I'm
at it
I'm
and
with it
going,
too.
I
If
don't
it
know
was just
why.
Yeah, if it was just Kelsey for Vanessa, I'd have said you're good.
I don't know if
The
that
other
works. The
I
only
I
reason I
understand
say
your
I don't
point
know
about
that
the
works
roles
role
and the
wise.
situation.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I still think overall firepower wise, I think that works.
Yeah.
But my other issue is I need to see more tactically, not from Goose, but just overall, because the setup. One of the things that really didn't allow FlyQuest to be as successful is they're not set up well. B Beyond was I constantly called it out. She's way too isolated on the CT side on overpass. So now you allow the opponents to bunch up towards long. You allow the opponents to go towards a position where they can gain a numerical advantage against her and eliminate her more cheaply than she would be if she was playing in more collectively on the defense with the team. And
Right.
that's one of your best mechanically skilled players. So you're offering that to trade one for one with on the CT. You're not going to come away with that advantage. So I think, look, you need to make a roster change. You've made your roster change. I think you made one too many, but you've made your roster changes.
Right.
I can see this roster working if Emmy can get back to any resemblance of the level that she had to go. I still think they struggle because I need to see tactically something different. But you know what? You gotta take risks. You're taking a risk if you're FlyQuest, and I can respect that.
Yeah.
So overall, I still don't think these changes make them better.
Yeah.
I don't think they
I'm
make them
unsure.
worse, but I I genuinely need to see more outside of roster movements
Yeah.
for me to be convinced.
The way I look at it was, did these moves move the needle sizably? I don't think they did.
It's a good
And
way of
the
putting it.
scary bit is with the Emmy pick, she could totally be fine, right? That's the whole thing. We don't know. She could totally be fine. But if she's not fine and it doesn't go well, the hope is that they notice it doesn't go well now so they can move on to a potentially different player soon before the next season starts, right?
I was
You're
gonna
coming
say,
up you're coming up on the timing now. And I mean,
yeah.
they've played with Scraft last season during some of the regular season matches, and she's very good. She's a very good player. Olia is another potential option who's on a free agent team that you could look towards and go, we'll pick somebody up who does a lot of fragging, who can play a bit more of that versatile role. And then the other one I think I would ever mention in terms of just players that come to mind when I'm like, hey, we're looking for somebody who can frag and is consistent. The only other person I can think of is Bungie. Like, those are the three that I come to
Yeah,
and I
that's
go,
true.
they're not tied down to anything
Actually,
solid right now.
I actually think, and it's not going to happen. This is all purely hypothetical because we already know she's sticking with the team she's got.
Yeah,
I think would be unreal in this, or make this team under empathy.
yeah. If
If
empathy
FlyQuest got
empathy
empathy,
went to
bro, they're
FlyQuest,
tearing
that'd be
people
crazy.
up,
That would be
bro.
absolutely
They're
amazing.
tearing people up if they had empathy. You get Vanessa empathy. You give me Vanessa empathy, Bibian Caude, and Goose. That lineup is going to wreck house.
Yeah.
So, but again, empathy already announced she's staying with the team. That's all hypothetical. No offense,
Yes.
Parks, because I know you're the GM this year.
I'm
But
sitting here, I'm going,
um,
I kind of know what's happening. I can't
yeah,
say
yeah,
anything.
yeah. But you know what? Overall, we'll see. Like
Yeah.
I'm excited. Emmy was my favorite player before she left Go. I'm sorry, it's still Bibian, but if it's Bibian now, but if Empathy gets back, Junger's probably gonna watch this and be like, all that support. You're gonna say no, but uh, if I'm really excited to see what Emmy does. If we get anything remotely close to the Emmy we had, then yeah, this lineup's gonna pack a pretty good punch. But that's a big if right now,
Yeah.
based on the case studies we have. So
That is it
that's
for the
news.
news.
And we got one other piece to talk about, and it's our favorite time of the year. It's awards season, Parks.
I'd actually contend that the favorite time of year is when there's actually matches being played, but fair play to you.
I'm with you. That's fair.
All right, we got three kind of to quickly go over. Two of them are from HLTV. So the HLTV awards, of course, they do their two women's categories. They've got the Team of the Year and the Player of the Year nominations. And I'm starting with these two because we can talk a little bit more about the other one in a second.
Yep.
So the teams that stood out for all of 2023 that they're going with are, of course, Nigma Galaxy, Navi Javelins, and then, of course, Fluxo Demons, who had a big showing at the end of the year.
Fluxo!
And, of course, under B4 at the start of the year looked very good as well. So those are the three. I think this goes, like, it's going to go to Nigma, I want to say.
Yeah.
Like, there's no contest. Yeah. I'll be interested to see. It'll be Nigma, Navi, Fluxo, but I'll be interested to see if there's like I don't know if they tell points or not on like where they went for voting, but they'll say what 1, 2, and 3 were.
It should be Nigma, Fluxo, Navi, and the whole reason is because Fluxo's won a major event or big event this year, Masters Femenina 6. Or Masters Femenina 7, I should say.
Right.
Nobody watches Brazil like that. HLTV, I don't even think are aware Gamers Club exists, so they won't. They'll just say, "Well, Navi finished second in all these lands."
They finished second in all the big lands that ESL paid a bunch of money on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what's going to happen. However, and Navi has beaten them heads up at the last land, but I would say over the whole course of the year, I like Fluxo a little bit more. Benny bias, of course, but still, I think tactically they're a little bit better. Fluxo seems to get to the big moment and they can't get across the line.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of these things where had they beaten Nigma on land, then I would have said there's a chance that they're gonna win it all.
Right.
And they were very close to doing so in season 3. But still, it's gonna be not. I mean, the big winner is gonna be Nigma. You can't pick anybody but Nigma because they've won the 2 lands. So.
All right, and then continuing on with that, the Women's Player of the Year, it is between Anna, Tori, and Viku. I'm gonna be a bit off. I think you're gonna find I'm a bit off the track here, or I'm a bit on the wild side. I think it's gonna be Anna, Viku, Tori is the order I'm gonna put it in.
I don't think that's true. I think it's going to be Anna, Tori, Viku.
Yeah.
And I think it actually should be Tori who wins the award. And the reason I say that is because in season 3 finals, Anna in the group stage wasn't really impactful. She wasn't huge. When the playoffs came around, she tore it up. Like, she was huge. But but in the group stage, it really was around other players. And I think if you look at season 4, Tori was massive in season 4. So I think, given that, I think actually Tori should probably take this title. In my opinion, Tori should take this title.
Yeah,
I think Anna's going to take it anyway, but
I think Tori should
take it.
Yeah, I did a little bit of looking, and I thought that Viku deserves a really good shake towards it, just because of where she performed during the finals events. I didn't really have the chance to look over during the duration of the season. But yeah, during the finals, specifically like during the LAN itself, Viku was strong the entire year. That is Katowice season 3 and season 4 finals. So that's kind of where I say in terms of the 1, 2, 3. So that is all the HLTV stuff, and then we kind of end real quick on GFI. Miss Ramona herself being nominated for the Malaysian FPS Player of the Year award.
Yes.
And I don't think we've gotten the result on that yet.
No, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah. So that's really cool. to see Ramona absolutely tearing it up and getting recognition for it back in her
Yeah.
home country, which is huge. I think that's a big thing.
It's
Uh,
actually, if you look at it too, like they have a lot of awards. Like, but esports, esports in Malaysia is growing. Esports in Indonesia is growing. Like, people need to understand like that. This is becoming more and more of a thing. Like,
yeah,
the awards were. I'm trying to load the web page. So they have esports organization of the year, team of the year, FPS player of the year, MOBA player of the year, battle royale player of the year, fighting games player of the year, racing game player of the year, sports games player of the year, caster of the year in English,
yeah,
caster of the year in Bahasa, esports host of the year, academy of the year, and media of the year.
right.
So like they have a lot of categories. And the other thing I want to point out is that first off, voting is open for everyone. So you, even if you don't live in Malaysia, can sign up and vote for her. So vote for her. You have my endorsement. Go vote for her. Because honestly, GFI has been unreal. Like she's been really, really good.
Trying to look and
And
see who her competition is. I'm trying to find it.
oh, like who they are?
So it's Kaze,
It's
who played for
Kaze.
Kailu.
Yep.
D4V41, I don't know.
David.
David, Puka, and Ayumi. So there's two
Yumi.
women. There's two women in this.
Yes.
Ayumi. I'm trying to get more info on Ayumi.
Oh,
Ayumi.
if you click more info, it just takes you to the page
Yeah,
where
it
you
just
vote
pages
for.
the page for.
Yeah.
Um,
Ayumi's probably Valorant, in all
yeah,
honesty.
that's my guess as well. So really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool to see. Across the board on that.
So.
That leaves us then with the end of the episode. We
Yep.
will be back next week with our top 20.
Next week.
We
2
said
weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks time. I thought we'll have a lot of.
We do
Do we?
bi-weekly.
Okay, that works for me. Next episode, either
Yeah.
next week or in 2 weeks time, we'll have our top 20. We were planning on doing it today. We got a little rushed over the weekend because of the LAN, and then also not everybody else has put out their top 20, and we want to.
So,
We want to kind of
exactly.
aggregate. We want to aggregate. We want to
Yeah, we're
go
gonna have an aggregate
here.
for
This
it
is
all, yeah.
this is where we voted for them. This is the top 20 that we get overall with from everybody. So hopefully we'll
Yeah.
be able to reach
It
out.
also gives me the chance to reach out to more guests.
I was gonna say we
Because
need
I've
to reach
gotten a
out to
lot
more
of
people.
no's this week, and I was like,
Really?
what the heck?
Damn.
So yeah,
It's
I
probably because of the
I got
major
one
cycle.
cold shoulder, and I got all no's everywhere else.
It was probably because of the major. Let's be real. The open qualifiers are out.
Yeah,
So
you're probably right.
And you know what? I'm okay with that because I got inventory this week. So the less work I have to do, the better.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, we're gonna do a top 20. Parks and I. We're gonna take female CS top 20. We might take BO3's top 10, although it'll kind of be hard to aggregate 10 versus 20.
Yeah.
But if we get a guest on, we'll do their top 20, and we'll aggregate the 4 lists
We'll
together and
get
get
everything.
you.
Yeah. We'll
Yep.
put everything
So,
together. We might even, I don't know, we might even
yeah.
utilize the LCA website and put like an article out with the top 20 and just kind of our ranking as individuals and then kind of the overall score they get as a result.
Okay.
That's something
fair.
that we'll cook. We'll cook on that.
We'll cook.
We'll come
Yeah,
back
we'll
to that.
cook on that.
Benny, speaking of end of episode, what are you looking for? What are you watching in the next 2 weeks'
What am
time?
I watching? I am watching the ESCA team pages, and the reason I say that is I'm going to be did a little small announcement.
Mm.
What I'm going to try to do is come back to ESCA casting, and I don't mean just for LCA.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to actually do. I used to do way back 2019, 2020. I don't know why people find it so weird, but they constantly tell me this. It's odd, but I used to do VOD casting. So I would literally sit down at Nerd Street at noon, and the 5 p.m. games or 6 p.m. games that would kick off in EU, I would cast those games.
Right.
But then you would have like 3 or 4 women's teams all playing then. So I would take the other 3 games that I didn't pick, download the VODs, and cast the VODs because there would be like a 3 or 4 hour gap between
Right.
when the EU games finished and when NA started. And I would even do it to a point where like I would do a VOD that played like 4 days prior. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Just to build the story of how these team seasons go. So I never actually managed to complete a whole team through a season.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. It got me to know the teams a lot more. I always wanted to try it. I tried to go back to it in 2022, and I never was successful. So I'm gonna try it again. I think starting January 15th are gonna pick up the VODs of a lot of these teams that don't get commentated
Right.
live. So not like a FlyQuest, but like maybe a Nouns or maybe
A shimmer.
Shimmer. Yeah, exactly.
A
So, but you
tsunami.
might commentate. I don't know. It depends on what you're doing.
I
With
will
streaming.
see how
We'll
busy I
talk
am
later.
between
But the
everything.
point is, those teams, I'm gonna go back to commentating and try to touch all the regions as well. So that's what I'm watching. I'm looking forward to it. The team roster is finalizing and the start of ESCA season. Parks, what are you watching?
I am watching the roster, or I'm watching the RMRs. I'm watching the qualifiers. I've been invited to join Dust 2's streams for the RMRs, which is really cool. We got a bunch of the LCA casters in there, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'm also watching the Shimmer Girls. They're trying to qualify for main through the playout, the special qualifiers they get.
Oh yeah, the cup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going through the cup. Because they meet the ELO requirement. They were like this close to doing the advanced one today, and at the last second, they just I forget who it was. One of them just did not have enough ELO. I think they lost a few pugs. Like they were just like trying to grind out, and they were like 40 ELO off meeting the requirement.
That's brutal.
Yeah. Nothing they could do, unfortunately. So they've were not able to go for the advanced one, but they'll make their way for the main one. And honestly, I give them a very good shot of making it into main.
Maybe they'll pull a CLG.
Yeah, make it into main and then qualify for advanced next year.
I
that
didn't
would
mean it
be
like that. CLG actually entered the main cup one year, and there was mid season, so it wasn't one for a spot in the league.
oh right, and
But it was
one.
just a main cup for all the teams in Maine, and they just ran it back and they won. Yeah.
I don't know much about those cups, but I remember it being pretty easy to run through them because there was like 8 teams would sign up or something ridiculous.
You
I'm not
ain't gotta put
I'm
it
not
down like
discrediting them.
that.
I'm not discrediting them. I'm just saying like they were lower advanced, higher main team already.
What are you watching, Parks? Watch your mouth, baby.
It's on site, Benny. No, so I'm watching the Shimmer Girls, and then I'm also kind of paying attention to everybody else and the roster moves. I think that's the biggest thing is now I'm paying attention to the roster moves. I want to see where these rosters end up. There is a lot of free agents out there that have good potential that I'm hoping land on their feet. A lot of them have been picked up already that were really kind of looking around and had a lot of potential to make rosters, to finalize rosters. Because that was one of the things of like, there were a lot of teams that had 4-3 players so they had a core already and they were just kind of looking for complementary players. And now it's kind of, that's where it's settling now as these players have found their homes. So it'll be interesting to see kind of all that. But yeah, that's everything for this episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. And hopefully Benikage will not have such a lagging
It's the
camera.
internet.
I'm gonna say I've chalked it up to the
internet.
so hopefully Benny won't have the internet will not be spooping. All right, see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.